Satnam. Hello, yogis and yoginis. Hello, welcome back. Satnam Sohail, you are the first one here, as usual. Welcome. Good to see you here. Good to see you, everyone who is connecting, and salutations to anyone who will be connecting to the video after it's being recorded. Let me just remind you that for the first year of this course, of this channel, I was just recording videos, but now I'm doing everything online, live. So feel free to come and join us live if you are just watching the recording, so that we can have a conversation and there's an interaction, dynamic interaction on the topic that is at hand, if there is any topic. Today there is a topic, is the mind, and we're going to go straight today into talking about what sometimes is called the impersonal minds. It could be called like the universal mind, or let us use the term the Antahkarana. We're going to go into this term in detail, and we're going to go manas, buddhi, ahankar, chitta. We're going to go full on today. It's a really big topic. I would say probably this is the climax of the whole course today. It's going to be like the climax. In a movie, the point of the highest peak of something happening and many things merging and ideas. This is probably going to be today. I'm creating a lot of expectation. Let's see where it goes. GIY, hello, Satnam, and good to see you here as well. So I think this is one of the keys, because there's a number of ways to understand this concept, and also it could be confusing depending on how you read it. But understanding the key concepts of these four functions, like manas, chitta, buddhi, ahankar, is going to be super important from the Eastern perspective to understand how the mind works. So let's go into it. The thing is, what we in the West say mind, just very quickly, just one word, four letters. In Indian philosophy has four functions, has four different words for that. And the totality of the four is what sometimes referred to as the Antahkarana. And Antahkarana means inner instrument. The word antar is the same root word in, that the English and the Sanskrit share the same root in the languages, Proto-Indo-European. So in the root, antar would express in English like inter, like inside, something inside. So antar is inside and karana is instrument. So what is our inner instrument? This is the instrument that God gave the soul, so that the soul could communicate back while we are in this incarnation, in this apparent separation from the divinity and the divine. So this instrument, Antahkarana, has what generally is called like four functions. It may be called like four different parts as well, or four something. Sometimes they say there's just three of them, because they consider that chitta is called universal mind and comprises the other three. But I don't want to go too quickly. We're going to get there, but slowly, because in the origins, the way it is understood is slightly different to how it is understood somehow in some Vedantic texts, and farther on in some lines. Like, I practice Kundalini Yoga, and the way that Yogi Bhajan would explain it would be in these other Vedantic texts. So in this, if you look at the manual, level 1 manual for Kundalini yogis and yoginis, it says that there is a universal mind called chitta, and within that there is the other three functions. But I'm going to start explaining it like four different things, and then we're going to see how they connect and how they interrelate to each other. Satnam John, hello, welcome. Good to see you here. So, and not only that, not only are we going to understand what each one of these four functions are, but we're going to explore as well how are they manifesting when they are in the most karmic version and in the most dharmic version. Because at the end, I always like to see both sides of the coin. So how every part of us manifests in a karmic and in a dharmic way is going to help us to understand what do we need to do with each one of these parts to actually reach the self-knowledge, the self-realization that we want to get there. So We're going to go there slowly, but before we go, I'm just going to show you a diagram that we already did in this course, in the mind course. That was last year, but let's refresh. You may remember the cosmic manifestation coming from the one, and we were coming down, and I mentioned, well, here there's going to be 4 functions. I'm going to go into them in some other video. Well, this is the video where we're going to go into this. But we were describing how from Purusha, from just consciousness down into the creation, into Kar, the Prakriti, the manifestation slowly comes down, evolving down into a level where we can perceive it. Yeah, we cannot see the gunas, but we can see the earth, the water, the fire, and the air. So this is the level that we can perceive, the five tattvas. And Jiawai asks, Chitta Vritti Nirodha is part of the same context in this example you're giving? Absolutely. We're going to go totally into that. That's going to be very important today. So, but before we talk about what that means, we have to understand what Chitta is. And so that's one of my priorities for today, to explore that. Thank you for bringing it up. So this is the manifested world. This is what we can see and hear and touch, yeah, and taste and smell. You remember the 5 senses, and there's actually 5 senses of perception and 5 senses of action. So it's called Gyanindriyas and Karmindriyas. So this is kind of like saying our input and output into the world. So we're gonna go starting on this level, like this is what manifests, and we can perceive that through our 5 senses. So let's make like a big face today. I think that's reasonably good. You never know with my drawings, but today is okay so far. And I'm gonna do this coming out of the region of the eyes. And we know that I'm not just referring to the eyes, because it's actually the 5 senses. Let's say the Indriyas. But I'm putting it here because, first of all, the eyes, the sight is the most, let's say, the highest priority as an entrance to the mind. So this is the entrance. This is like inputs, yeah, inputs into the mind. So this is what comes in, yeah, from the 5 senses, and the eyesight is the most relevant. So when I am with the eyes open, the mind is going to go where the eyes go, and if I am looking around, it's difficult to feeling inside because the eyes go outside. Yeah, this is why in meditation we focus the eyes on one point, maybe the third eye, maybe the tip of the nose, Nasikagra, or maybe when we are doing Tratakam, looking at a candle, for example, because focusing the eyes is going to focus the mind. So that's one of the aspects. It's not the most important, but it's the one that the mind pays more attention to. And we will see now which part of the mind pays more attention to this. This is going to be very relevant as well. But yeah, so there is these 5 indriyas. You will remember, yeah? And they are linked to the 5 senses. And we could draw them again if you wanted, just so that we have them clear. So there's the nose, there's the taste, our tongue coming out, there's the sight, an eye, there's the hand. You know, if I'm going to do a drawing, why not make it beautiful? At least make an effort to make it beautiful, yeah? So these are the 5 senses, the 5 ways that we perceive what's happening in the world. Actually, we know that these 5 are connected to the first 5 chakras. Every chakra, according to the element, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So they would actually be going up, Yeah, even though I drawn it like this because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's five senses. So just know that if we were looking at it like here, then we would have them in like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are the 4 senses that going into the mind, and then there's 4 outputs, which is how we exert our will, how do we do actions outside in the world. And there would be 4 as well. This is called karmindriyas. Karma is action, so karma, karmindriyas, yeah? And there would be elimination, reproduction, movement, touch, and speaking. Yeah, it makes sense, listening or speaking, touching or grasping something, taking something, seeing the world and moving around the world. The taste is linked to reproduction because it's linked to the 2nd chakra, and this is smell linked to the 1st chakra, linked to elimination, which is something that the 1st chakra has the role. Okay, so these are all the senses that are coming in. You will remember also the metaphor that I used when I was talking about how Krishna talks to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, and the metaphor of the chariot, and which is Krishna is driving the chariot, and Krishna is holding the reins of the horses. Now the horses are the 5 senses. So these are the horses, okay? And these are the reins, let's say the 2 reins that are holding the horses. Now, who is holding the horses? This is it. Now we are starting, yeah? This is the main topic of today. So there is far aspects. This head is going to be very big. I'm going to make it much bigger than it actually is. So this is more like an alien head. And we're going to have here 4 different aspects. Let me draw them first, and then we will discuss them in detail. Let's do it like this. So the inputs, where do they go? Well, they go to the first one, and that's called manas. Manas. So manas receives these inputs. And manas is the part of the mind that is more linked to the outside world. So this is the mind, this is how we can connect to whatever else is happening in the mind, through manas. Because it's linked to the senses, yeah? And it also does some basic pre-processing. Yeah? So whatever comes in, I'm looking at a pen, and then manas captures the image of the pen, and then it understands, yeah, what this figure is. It interprets a little bit of pre-processing, a little bit of interpretation of what is seeing in the world. This is the main role of manas. Now, it's interesting because the word manas, that is probably the word where our mind, like the Western vision of the word mind, comes from. Because, human, being a human being, hue is often associated to hue, like a light, and man is mind. Now that man is kind of like saying, look, a human is like an animal with a mind. It's kind of saying like that. But, so a man is an animal with a mind. But wait, why do we say a man? Why don't we say another word? Why do we say man? Well, the word man probably comes from here, manas. Yeah, it's an animal with a mind, with a manas. So, in a way, our Western understanding, our Western word that we have to describe a human has a mind, comes from actually this aspect of the Indian terms. Of the 4 Indian terms, this is the one that is taken for the Western understanding of what is a mind. So when we think about mind, we would very, very quickly associate it to manas, but it's not. There's these other aspects as well. So we will go into them as well. But for the first time, for the first moment, it's interesting that we use manas. And why is it interesting? Because you know one of my other passions, mantras. Yeah, you've seen me doing courses on mantras because that's where my heart is. But look, it's called mantra. And it's called like this because, well, tra can be translated in many ways, but one would be like protection or going through, look, like a crossing. Wait a moment. It's called mantra. It's not called chittatra or buddhitra or ahankartra. Yeah? Did you ever think about this? It's called mantra. Now, why would that be? Well, there's a number of things why this can be. But I think the most immediate is that when we are chanting mantras, we are chanting and listening to the sound of the mantra. And now, which part of the mind is in charge of speaking, chanting, and listening? Well, it's manas, isn't it? So remember, this is the part of the mind that is connected to the outside world. So for that reason, if we want to go into the mind and affect the mind in some way, we have to go through here. We cannot just go directly and influence this. This is the input. This is the way to go and affect the mind in some way. So the mantras, by being sound, are a great way that are going to be influencing manas. That's one reason. So what happens with the manas is that, what's the problem with the senses? The problem is that we get distracted. And the distractions are generally in the outside, yeah? Looking out, listening to some beautiful music, or I'm Spanish. In Spain, we pay a lot of attention to food. So I would remember, when we do a level 1 training, teacher training for yoga, the breaks are always about food. What kind of food are we eating in the break? And then when we're having lunch, what is this? Who prepared this? And how do you prepare it? Give me the recipe. And it's like, all this time is like food. So taste is actually a very relevant, let's say, sense in Spain. Yeah, the taste. And it's funny, yeah, taste is second chakra. Second chakra is passion, not just sexual passion, but passion. And I would say Spanish people are quite passionate. Yeah, we feel it. You can feel the blood boiling, yeah, when we are talking about some things. And sometimes even when we talk, we could get very passionate. So there's a lot of second chakra energy. I guess it's also because of the heat. In Spain, we have quite a bit of sun, and particularly in some areas of Spain. Not so much in the northwest, but much more towards the south and the southeast and the islands. And I'm from an island, so there is this appealing, getting appeal, the sense of touch or taste in this case, like it gathers our consciousness, it catches our consciousness. So okay. So because we get distracted through the senses, that's the way we often just go away outside of our bodies. And remember, if we're going to find self-realization, we're going to find it inside. We're not going to find it outside, right? That's why when we meditate, we often close our eyes, yeah? And hopefully also close our ears and, pratyahara, drawing inwards the attention from the senses. However, our attention generally is going outside, and therefore by chanting a mantra outside, that's why chanting mantra aloud is different from just repeating it in the head. When we are chanting it out loud, it's actually helping go inwards, because the senses which want to go outside hear that sound, and when we make that sound repetitive, it just catches the attention of manas, and then that repetition can create like the hypnosis that I was talking about in some other videos. Yeah, it hypnotizes us to capture the attention to go inwards. So Stanislav, hello Satnam, welcome. He asks, does power of chanted mantras stay with people in their next incarnation? Yes, I would say, look, karma, sometimes we think about karma with a negative context. Like you do something, and whatever bad actions you had, they are going to come back in the next life. But it's not just that. It's not just bad action, it's also good actions. And even beyond good or bad, beyond karma, there is dharma. And anything you do in this life is going to be already, like, that's already progress for the next life. So whatever benefits you get out of your spiritual practice in this life, you will come to next life with that already behind you, supporting you. When I say behind, I mean supporting you, which means that, maybe this life, maybe in one life it takes you 20 years to find the spiritual path, and looking around for a teacher, and it's really hard, and then you find one, and then you start doing your practice, and you develop a certain core strength with the teachings. And maybe in the next reincarnation it takes, you are born in a yogic family, and then immediately is already there with you from the beginning. Who knows, right? So yes, whatever work you do here is going to carry on for the next incarnation. That's the understanding. Yeah. So that's why we chant mantras. Yeah, to catch the attention of manas, and then through manas, then it has an effect on the other three. But it's through manas that we have that effect on the other three. So that's another way of saying it. All right. Now we will come back. First, I'm gonna do like a little overview of all of them, and then maybe we will go in more detail into them. So that's manas. Let's go to the next one, and I'm gonna do a connection like this, but it's actually gonna be like a double arrow, because they're going to be in connection, both of them. Stan says, nice, good. Yeah, it's good news, right? All the work that we do is not just lost, even if we die, whatever we do carries on. That's a good feeling. All right, so from manas we go to chitta. I write with a double T, but who cares? It could be one T, double T, doesn't matter. This is not the Sanskrit term, right? It's just chitta. But anyway, chitta. What does chitta mean? Well, this is probably the one that is more difficult for me to describe, because for a long while I was very confused about this term. And that's the reason why I'm telling you. Because, as I said, in some Vedantic texts, and some teachers, like Yogi Bhajan, will say, chitta is the other three together. So that can be very confusing. But then I found a wonderful website. I'm gonna just mention it. I'm gonna put it here so that if you want, you can just go and check it out. SwamiJ.com. It's fantastic. It's full of resources, full of insights on yogic texts. It goes in depth into the Yoga Sutras, into the Bhagavad Gita, and many of the yogic philosophy concepts that we explore, like in these courses. And it gave me a first understanding of chitta. That was really good. And then from that place, then I could then understand why chitta sometimes is called what connects the other three. But let me just explore it first the way it is explained in swamij.com, which is the way it would be more understood in some in some, like in Samkhya, for example. So the way it is said is that chitta is, first of all, one of the first functions of chitta is memory. So and actually, look, I mentioned Yogi Bhajan, for example. Yeah, he would say that chitta is the universal mind and actually embraces the other three. But I've heard lectures from Yogi Bhajan where he's saying chitta is your remembrance and your memory and what you remember. So he was also aware of this understanding of chitta. It's just that he didn't talk about it in that way. But in some talks he would refer to chitta as memory. So let me give an example. Yeah, I see the pen. What we were doing before. Yeah, I see the pen. Manas captures the image and does a certain pre-processing of what the different neurons see, and then the understanding of what this is goes into chitta. And in chitta, in my memory bank, I access the memory of pens. And of course, I've seen pens before, so I see it and I'm like, oh yes, I recognize that. That's a pen. And not just recognizing it, but also it can be like the storage of impressions. Sometimes it's called like that, yeah? The storage of impressions of pens comes to the surface. So maybe when I was a child, I had a pen that was just like this, and I love them to paint and to draw. So maybe somebody shows me the pen and is like, oh, I remember these kind of pens. I love them. I did so many drawings. And then memories of you doing drawings with this kind of pen come surfacing. Yeah, they come to the surface and you are recognizing that. Or maybe when you were a kid, one day I don't know, you had a nasty fight with a kid in school and they took a pen and they stabbed you in the hand with a pen and they hurt you. And then it's like, you see the pen and you're like, oh yeah, and you remember the painful memory wakes up from a pen. So the storage of impressions, this chitta, they could be neutral, but they can also be charged with a certain positive or negative charge of the experience, yeah, because memory is intimately linked to emotions, and you will know that if you have an experience charged with a particularly strong emotion, it is much more likely that you're going to remember that experience, that one that is neutral. So if you go back to when you were a child, when you were 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, you will recognize that we don't hold many memories of that time. And many of them are asleep. But the ones that we remember are generally strong with some particular emotional charge, which could be positive or negative, but there's generally some strong emotional charge, because that's going to help the memory to get established. That's why we say, look, you learn better when you're having fun rather than if you are bored, because fun is going to be a good positive emotion and it's going to help the mind to integrate that experience into some learning. So it's better to have fun while we learn, yeah? So when we access this chitta as a memory bank, this storage of impressions, yeah, we call it impressions, they can be negative, let's put it like this, just very, very basic, like negative, positive, or neutral in some way. All right. So we're going to continue. We're going to come back to chitta. We're going to develop it more. Yeah, we're going to see how it is connected in some other ways. But if I'm talking about the memory, what I can remember, well, you are probably able to make the association to this drawing that we did on the levels of consciousness, in which we were talking about this is the subconscious, yeah, and this is the unconscious, and there is like a connection to the unconscious, which is deeper, and this is the semi-conscious, which is the surface. If you haven't watched this video, I recommend you watch it, because it's going to bring a lot of understanding to what I'm saying right now. What this diagram is telling us is, look, your memories, whatever happened, you remember something happens and it drops into the subconscious. So the subconscious is charged with these memories, and some of them, like here, yeah, some of them are going to be just little, like this, yeah, a little negative experience. There will be also some which are just positive experiences, and some other memories will just be totally neutral, which is good that I use the color blue now, because, you know, blue is the color of water. And remember that subconscious is linked to the energy of water. So this is, yeah. But is water all around to the surface, to the waves in the surface? We will come back to this. Actually, GIY, you were talking about chitta, vritti, nirodha. Vritti being movements, waves, and chitta being watery in quality. Then we're talking about these waves. So we will come back to this point. And but yeah, there is this watery quality to the thoughts that we remember, but they are not in the surface all the time. They are mostly in the subconscious. And here there will be some charge, negative or positive or neutrally charged, neutral impressions, yeah? And remember, this is the samskaras as well. If I did some action, the memory of the actions that I did, like Stan was asking, chanting mantras, is it going to help? Well, remember, the samskaras come with you to the next life. So whatever mantras you are chanting, they are getting stored here as well. So there is a memory of the, let's say, the vibration that what you are doing in this life gets stored here. Water has memory. There's a beautiful documentary on the memory of water in YouTube, if you want to watch it. That's a fantastic thing. Maybe someday we can talk more about this. But basically, water has memory, right? So our subconscious memory, our subconscious mind, this is the part where there is this storage of impressions, the storage of memories. All right. So let us continue drawing this diagram, yeah? And there is this double connection, because it's like I see the pen, yeah? And then I recognize it and I remember the experiences that I had with the pen. But also Chitta is informing manas, because that memory is helping me to do the pre-processing, yeah? To understand what am I looking at. Let's move on. And again, there's going to be a double arrow, even though at the moment we're mostly moving like this, yeah? Mostly moving in this direction. Oh, I have another message. So, does our conditioning dictate how we later perceive experiences, negative or positive? Yes. So when you say our conditioning is like whatever happened in the past and it was stored here in the memory, in the chitta, whatever experience I had, and particularly if it was negative or positive, is going to influence how am I going to look at the world. This is what I was saying about this arrow, that there is an arrow going back. So whatever was happening, whatever was recorded in the subconscious, yeah, exactly, in the subconscious level, whatever was recorded in the subconscious, that's going to affect of what I look at. Obviously, I mean, if I like something, I'm going to look at it more than if I don't like it, right? My attention, yeah, the different senses are going to go towards things that I'm feeling more attracted to. And those things that I'm more attracted to are stored here. And that's going to be conditioning what am I going to be looking at and how am I going to look at. This pre-processing is going to be influenced as well, yeah? I see something and already I'm kind of filtering what I'm seeing. There is a certain kind of filtering in the manas. There is this concept, I think you can already see it in the Yoga Sutras from Patanjali talking. I think it's called klishta, like colored thoughts. Like I put this metaphor before, like looking through the window, and the window is one of these panels from a church which have like colored glass, and my perception is going to be colored. But who put those panels there? Well, it was I had a bad experience or a good experience, and that experience which was recorded in the memory as an impression, that negativity or positivity is going to be placed here. So next time when I'm looking at pens, if a kid stabbed me with a pen, next time I see a pen, a part of me is going to be beware, be careful. So that's going to be a filter that I'm going to be putting on the outside. And so if I am putting filters like these colored perceptions, yeah, then that is not going to allow me to see the truth, the reality as it is. So partly, this is what generates also avidya, ignorance, right? So part of the work that we have to do, like Patanjali describes, is we have to clean out all these tainted windows, all these colored glasses, which are coloring our thoughts, even just our perception. And that's why also, I didn't mention it before, that's another reason why we chant mantras. Because mantras are going to help purify manas so that my perception of the outside world is going to be less filtered, less tainted, and therefore more real. So hopefully that makes sense. called D2K. 2K. Satnam, hello, welcome. So I had a physical stiffness during sleep, and there was a face that was split into two halves, good and evil. My second chakra was boiling, and a sword appeared striking into a stone. What does it mean? Oh my God. Oh dear. I don't know. What does it mean to you? Dreams are, dreams are quite incredible. Dreams are, let's remember that when we are dreaming, we are accessing the subconscious. So the subconscious is speaking to us. And there could be a lot of wisdom in the subconscious as well. There was a face split in two halves, good and evil, second chakra boiling, sword appeared. I don't know. I mean, dreams are filled with archetypal images, images which represent some concepts, some archetypal concepts. And so that you could take apart a dream by its different elements and try to explore what it means to you. But yeah, what does a sword mean? What kind of sword? And is it striking into a stone to break it? Or is it to try to go into the stone? Is it piercing it, or is it striking it like to break it? And what is the good and the evil? There could be many interpretations that you could do with that. But I think dream interpretation is for everyone to do on themselves, yeah? Not for somebody from the outside. I mean, somebody can tell you about archetypes, they can tell you about meaning of symbols, but it's up to you to explore what it means to you. What does the face with the two halves mean? And what was happening in the second chakra as well. I don't do dream interpretation, by the way. But yeah, certainly some dreams are really insightful, and they bring wisdom on what to do, how to apply it in our lives. So it's good to explore it. So, where were we? We were going to do the transition into this place, yeah? What is this place? I'm going to call it Ahankara. Now, Ahankara, again, is one of these words that you can write in many ways. Sometimes I write with an N and a G, Ahankar. Today I'm going to write it with an M, Ahankar. But again, this is not the Sanskrit word, so who cares, right? It is how we pronounce it. And this is generally ahang or ahamkar, yeah? And ahamkar, let's see what the word means actually. Oh, by the way, we didn't see what chitta means, yeah? Chitta comes from chit. And if you look at chit, the word chit in the dictionary is actually consciousness. So you will recognize chit when we read these texts, yogic texts, which tell us that our essence, in our essence, and where you get to, when you get into the self-realization, what you realize is that we are essentially Sat, Chit, Ananda. And when Sat, Chit, Ananda is expressed, look, it's Sat, truth or reality, Chit, consciousness, and Ananda, bliss. So when you realize that your true self, your truth, your Sat, you are consciousness, Chit. And that realization brings a certain bliss, Ananda. It's quite simple, this formula of these three components. But look, Sat, Chit, Ananda, Chit, consciousness. So we are in essence consciousness. And so when we are relating to Chitta, talking about how Chitta is all this watery, yeah, that is not just subconscious, it can go deep into the unconscious, it can be the surface of the semi-conscious, all this is consciousness. So that's going to help us make more sense of why later we find Chitta as something that is incorporating the other three, and also is going to help us understand better the sentence Chitta Vritti Nirodha. But we will come back to that. So we want to see what Ahankar means. And Aham, well, Kar, you probably already heard it many times here in this course. I already mentioned when we were talking about Prakriti, Kriti, Kr. Kar meaning Kar. Kar is create, the same root for the English word create. So Kar is creation. And Aham means I am, Aham, Aham. You may remember this when in the video on what is the meaning of the word Guru. And I explore the mantra Hridayakuharamadye when Ramana Maharshi is saying like Hridayakuharamadye Kevalam Brahma Mantram Aham Aham iti Sakshat. Aham Aham, I am, yeah? So God, Brahma is vibrating I am within our hearts. That beautiful mantra is telling Aham Aham as I am. So what does Ahamkar mean? Well, you can understand it in two ways. The first way, the traditional way, is that Ahamkar, that's the part of us, of our mind, which creates the sense of I amness. So this is, let me use a different color. I'm going to use orange in this case. I amness, like identity, yeah? This is the part that makes the individualization. Look at what makes me an individual, yeah? The feeling that I exist, that I am. And the thing is, that ahankar, this aspect, yeah, which feels that I am, is often defined as we are children, as we are not even children, like infants. When we are babies growing, you are learning to look at your hand and seeing the blanket and perceiving that the hand and the blanket is different. Actually, you mostly do the difference because you can sense it through the five senses. Yeah, manas is in a very primitive, but also very pure form, still not filters attached. Chitta, the memory bank is pretty empty. We basically just have still the samskaras from past lives and a few other impressions and the basic layer of the subconscious from the mother when the mother was pregnant of ourselves. So we inherit the subconscious of the mother during the pregnancy. So that is there, but in a very basic layer. And then as we are babies, we see our hand, we see the blanket, we feel the sensation of the hand, but we don't feel the blanket. So we cannot feel as the blanket because the blanket is not part of my sensory system. And therefore, I see it as something separate, and one I can feel and the other one I can't. And then I make the differentiation of, wait, this is me and this is not me. So this is kind of like going from the oneness. This is the moment when the ego is beginning to form, right? And we are going from the one. Look, this is the creation of the universe, but it's also us. Yeah. When we arrive to the world, we are all one. We are one with our mothers and one with everything, and suddenly we are separated. Two. That's separation, right? Mother and baby is separated, and also the starting process of us separating from the world. This is where Maya comes, which, by the way, is a female energy. Maya, yeah, this what is often called an illusion. It's not an illusion, it's just creating in us the illusion that we are separate, yeah? But Maya comes with Ma, yeah? Ma being mother. So how interesting that we are born into the world, we feel separate from the mother, and then we start to understand, wait, if I'm separate from the mother, I'm also separate from my blanket because I cannot feel it, right? It's a layer of consciousness. And then, wait, what's that? Oh, those are curtains. They are out there, and I am here, and I cannot feel them. So I'm not that either, right? Oh, what is this? Oh, that's a cradle or a crib, right? And oh, yeah, that's different from me. I don't feel it. And then the baby starts to form an idea of an identity, separate identity. So this is the moment of individualization, yeah? Of saying, yeah, this is who I am. And this is the beginning of what it will become an individual. And later on, acquire some characteristics and make it, create our own character. It will yeah? Ahankar. It will create a character. Do you follow how I'm using the language to connect? So we will start individualizing, utilizing duality that Maya has created for us, and then start to feel separate from the world, which is not real because we are always connected to everything, but that's not the experience because we cannot feel it. Our consciousness is limited to our senses so far, and so we are going to start individualizing and separating. It's quite funny because the whole path we were going to have to take later on in yoga will be the path back to samadhi. And I say back because, samadhi is union, and at the beginning we feel united with everything. So we're going to have to go back after feeling individualized, go back to union through, in a way, an expansion of consciousness. You will expand your consciousness and feel that actually blanket is part of me as well. I can feel the blanket in my consciousness space. As we expand the consciousness outside of the limits of our skin, I'm going to start incorporating other people and other experiences around me into my consciousness, and therefore bridging that gap that I was feeling, which was like, my blanket I don't feel, therefore it's not me. My hand I feel, therefore it is me. And by expanding the consciousness into the blanket, then I can go back to feeling, actually the blanket and me are one, even if I don't have nerves going into the blanket. So that samadhi is going to be including that, expanding the consciousness to incorporate everything. Hopefully that idea is I'm communicating it properly. If there is any doubt, please write. Say something in the chat or just tell me where you are with this understanding. So ahankar is creating this idea, creating the sense of I am. Okay? But look, when we start to understand that chitta is, this blanket is not me, then there's something else happening on the very basic level of the baby's head. 1 second. One second. The baby operates in the most fundamental level of survival, let's say. The most basic instinct that is operating within a baby is, I need to survive. The baby is the first stage of life, and therefore connected to the first chakra. And the first chakra is mostly associated to survival. And basically there is two forces at play with a baby. Is this something dangerous and I have to pull away from? Is it something scary and I want to go away? Even, the feeling of discomfort, like dirty nappies, can be like something uncomfortable. I don't like this, and I'm going to cry to see if somebody can help me get rid of this experience, right? Because it's something that could be dangerous for my well-being. Dirty nappies for a whole day would not be healthy, so it has to cry to let the adults who are taking care of the baby know that something is wrong. But if it is a spider or something, pull away. This could be dangerous. So there is a basic impulse to survive, which is guiding. This survival mechanism is guiding my pulling away from something that is dangerous. And also, when there is nothing dangerous around, then there is another impulse, which is like total, absolute curiosity for the world, because the baby needs to learn. And the way the baby learns is through looking around, being curious, touching and feeling and all the senses, putting something in the mouth to utilize the 5 senses, stimulating manas, creating experiences, creating memories in chitta, and by doing that, stabilizing I amness, stabilizing the feeling that I am, but also this curiosity to something. They see something and they don't perceive it's dangerous, they are going to be curious about it and they want to get closer to. And the things that they want to pull away from, that they sense could be dangerous. And the things that they sense they could be interesting to learn something from and they feel attracted to, those becomes the pulling away, getting close to, is the origins, the seeds of likes and dislikes. Something that I like, something that I dislike. And also it will depend on the memories. If the baby has a bad experience with an object, they may dislike that object in the future. So likes and dislikes, that's what starts to become our characteristics, which are surround the idea of our ego. Our ego is a lot of what defines our ego from the Western perspective is what I like and what I dislike. It goes very much attached to that. And I will try to pursue things which I like, and I will escape things which I dislike, looking for on a very short-term basis, get closer to pleasure and away from pain. And that's a very short-term way of looking into the world, because sometimes we need to go through the pain to go to a better place. And going through that pain is going to be hard. This is the basic reason why it's difficult to stop addictions, right? If you are addicted to a substance, it's going to be hard to stop taking it because you have to go through some pain. And on a very basic level, we are designed to avoid pain and to look for pleasure. So if we find something which in nature it would be very weird to find in a natural state, something like alcohol or something like that, something that can create a strong addiction. And because it doesn't exist in nature, there is not clear mechanism. The body doesn't know what to do when we actually take a substance and we find it extremely pleasurable. And then how do you get out of that? How do you get out of that rhythm to get attached to that? G says, that part of the ego gets a cold shower every morning. Yeah, exactly. So exactly, when we take cold showers in the mornings, we are actually strengthening our will, which is overpowering the tendency from the ego to say, no, let's stay in bed, which is nice and warm and cozy. Why should I get up and have a cold shower? I don't want to do that, right? So we are establishing who commands here, right? It's a way to train ourselves. And look, a big deal on how to work with the different aspects of the mind takes training, which is another word to say it takes discipline. So yeah, that's gonna be where our discipline comes into. Yeah, great. Gee, that's a good point. So ahankar, and that's gonna be the likes and the dislikes. Yeah. And look, one of the definitions of a yogi is one who is beyond the likes and the dislikes. Yeah. How is it? Sorry. There's another word. Is beyond also the praise and the slander, I think it is. So beyond what you think that you like and you dislike, beyond the praise and the slander, beyond the polar opposites, and just finding the middle path and living in a state of neutrality. So that's a kind of a basic definition of a yogi you can find sometimes in the level 1 teacher training. Yeah. So why is it going beyond likes and dislikes? Because to do yoga you have to go through uncomfortable positions. Yeah, you have asanas are not nice to do generally. Putting your leg behind the head. Not that you have to do it. But if you want to do it, if you're going to do it as a discipline, then it's something uncomfortable. Yeah. But look, this is what yoga is about: getting out of our comfort zone, to explore who we really are, to find our truth, to find our satnam. And so getting out of our comfort zone is challenging what the ahankar is telling me that it likes and dislikes. Yeah. So it's going beyond that. Jiawai says, this all leads me back to attachment. In which way? What do you mean? Yeah, we are attached to what we like, yeah, and we are attached to staying away from what we dislike. Yeah, we could say like that. Yeah, you're right. Preferences for likes and dislikes. Yeah, this is our attachment, which is why I was using the example of the addiction, because addiction is an extreme attachment. So yeah, getting out of addiction, this is where it becomes really hard for ahankar. Oh, it's getting very shiny here. Let me just close this 1 second. It's lovely when the sun shines, but this is the challenge when I'm recording with natural light. That then I can lower the brightness in the camera, but then the sun goes away or there's a cloud, then I have to put it up again, and it's just very distracting for me. So it's better to lower this cloth, the curtain. All right. So ahankar, likes and dislikes, and this is something we're going to have to go beyond. But because look, ahankar, this term, this is the part of the mind of the Antahkarana that we often in the West call the ego. But in this website, they also make a very nice differentiation, very nice distinction. They say, look, the ego has two ways of being understood. One is just a house. Imagine a house that is completely empty. No sofa, no chairs, no tables, no decorations, no painting in the walls, no curtains, no anything. Just a plain white walls, yeah? And then there is the house with all the decorations that, you put the curtains that you like, and the ground is the color that you like, and you paint the walls as you like. You will have detected me using the word like, yeah? Which means that this is how you decorate yourself, your inner self, yeah? That's how I decorate my mind, let's say, how I like the things in the world. And I attach myself, going to attachment, like GIY was saying, I attach myself to that projection and to that image. How I see myself, I like that, and I'm going to be attached to that. But that kind of ego, the decorations of the house, that's the term of ego the way Western psychology would refer to. How I decorate my house. In the Eastern perspective, ahankar is not necessarily the decorations, it's just the house. The house is what contains the feeling that I am that the feeling that I am, that I amness, yeah, the individuality. That is not evil. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having a feeling of I amness. Actually, we need it. So that feeling of ahankar, that has to be taken care of. And taken care of means nurtured and continued all the way to samadhi. Even to the highest peaks of samadhi, which are, a number of different samadhis, even to the largest points of samadhis, even when you are finding union with the divine and you are saying, I am a drop of water going into the ocean, to be able to just say that it implies that you can say, I am a drop of water. That means you have to have ahankar. Otherwise, it's impossible. You cannot say, I am a drop of water coming back to the ocean. Because then if there was no ahankar, you would not be able to say that. So ahankar is there. It's just that the likes and the dislikes are not there. So the Western concept of likes and dislikes as an ego, that is the thing that I have to purify of. That's why when they say, we have to destroy the ego, well, yes and no. We have to get rid of our attachment to the likes and the dislikes, which is going to influence my capacity to move on in the spiritual path. But we don't have to get rid of my capacity to say, I am. GIY reminds us one of the mantras that we use in Kundalini, I am the light of my soul, I am bountiful, beautiful, and bliss, I am. Yes, indeed. Yeah, so that's a good example of utilizing ahankar in a way that is going to support our dharma, right? Our soul's purpose, yeah? To get to the soul, to get to feeling beautiful and bountiful, yeah? And blissful, yeah? This is the ahankar. The one who can say, I am the light of the soul, that's an identification. So that's we are saying that mantra. So again, it's mantra because it enters through manas, but that particular one is going straight into ahankar. There's actually a connection here as well. Yeah. So that words that GIY was just saying, that are going straight from manas into ahankar to establish my identification. What do I identify with? I identify with my soul. So I am aligning ahankar with my soul. Yeah, does it make sense? Now there's another factor as well, which I mentioned. One way to understand the meaning of ahankar is the feeling, the part of me which is creating the feeling of I am. There's another way to understand this, which is very interesting. This is what Shiv Charan taught me, my spiritual teacher. He says, look, ahankar can also be translated like, I am the doer. I am the one who is doing things. So that's the other aspect, which is also like a Western understanding of what ego is, which is you are the center of the universe, let's say. And whatever happens is the result of my efforts and my actions, which is not truth. It's not true. We are so influenced by the circumstances around us, circumstances that happened before us, the past experiences, the filters that I have, the colored light that I see. We are so influenced by so many factors. How much of that is actually our free will, we choosing to do something? Yeah. So by attaching ourselves to our actions and the results of our actions, that's basically creating karma, because we are having actions and they are going to have a consequence. So we are seeding, we are sowing the seeds of samskaras, some like seed, yeah, meaning seed. In Spanish, semilla. Semilla comes from sam, yeah, and kara, seeds of action, so future actions. So by identifying with what we're doing, this is what's happening. Or you can say, whatever action was done, whatever victory we reached, whatever was obtained, it was Guru. Guru did it through me. And by doing it through you, you're not taking any claim for, like, look how nice I am that I did this, but I'm not going to take any blame either. Responsibility is all God. And I take the responsibility to be aligned to that hukam, to that order, to do what has to be done. But I am doing it, I'm the hand of God in some way. I am doing what has to be done. Of course, in order to say this means that you have to be super aligned to know what is the will, what is the hukam. Because you can, horrible, horrible things have been done in the world in the name of God. So you can say whatever you want, but at the end of the day, are you aligned or are you not? But if you are aligned and you are a channel, then you are not the one who is doing things. Yeah, you are just following the hukam. In that case, that's a purification, that's a cleaning of the ahankar aspect. Yeah. Hopefully that's clear. So let's take this. Let's go back to the example of the pen, seeing the pen, or I see a pen. The information comes into Manas, and I do a certain pre-processing. Okay, this is blue, this is gray, this is all done in the back of the brain, and then I'm like, oh yeah. Even though it's the back, I drew it here in the front, but yeah, never mind about the actual brain, what's happening. Yeah, this is metaphorically speaking. Pre-processing, and then I go into my bank of memory, my impressions, and I recognize, wait a moment, I used to have these pens when I was little. I love these pens. I used to do so beautiful drawings with them. What am I saying? I love these pens. So you see, the memory has triggered already a certain like or dislike. Yeah, this negative, positive, or neutral, which, by the way, the recording of negative, positive, or neutral, they came from ahankar. Did I like the experience? The impression that was being formed, then it receives a positive charge. Did I not like it? It receives a negative charge. Sorry. Does it not trigger like or dislike? It stays as neutral. So that was how this arrow was pointing now. But now I'm seeing the pen, and I recognize this kind of pen. It's the one like the ones I had when I was little. And then it triggers a like. Ooh, I like it. Let me take it. And then I may impulsively, immediately go to Manas and say, take it. You remember the output? The hand which is touching, or the hand which is grasping. So it goes to the karmendriya, and you are taking the pen, and you are taking for you. You can see that in babies happening in this. Yeah, they see the pen. Ooh, I like it. And they take it. Yeah, they don't care whether it's the other kid's pen. Another kid has the pen in the hand and they take it. They just like it. So it's so innocent in some way, so impulsive, but they don't understand the concept that this is not mine. What? It's here. I can take it. So I take it, right? And the other kid starts crying, right? But that's the thing. This is not thinking like, should I take it or should I not take it? This is just impulsivity and reactivity. So this arrow here pointing into the action, the output action of just taking it, it's more like a reactive and impulsive action. Let's talk about addictions. An alcoholic will see a glass of whiskey, and then that's triggering a certain memory and a bank of impressions that are associated to the whiskey, which they are addicted to, which means that they like it, they want to take it. Yeah. Now, on one part of themselves, they may know that that's damaging for them, but that part of them doesn't trigger. They see the glass of whiskey and they just take it and they drink it sometimes without even triggering any conscious thought. Look, you see this drawing? Can we put it on top? Right? So it stays here. It stays here. It doesn't really go into some form of conscious thinking. So you see, this layer of semi-conscious, we can put it here. And I put it here because on some level, a lot of the things that we perceive through the inputs, through the senses, we perceive them without noticing. We see much more than we think that we see. We smell much more than we think that we smell. So it can go directly through the subconscious, yeah? So a part of manas is subconscious, but a part of manas can be conscious as well. I can choose to look at something. I can choose to see something, and I am concentrating my image, my sight on one point or another. So I am actually seeing something. Satnam, Elena Chantre Silva, I think you are Harchand, aren't you? Satnam ji, hello. Bem-vinda. Beijinhos, beijinhos. So this is the same with ahankar. Whether something I like or I dislike, it can be a reaction that happens without me noticing, or I can notice that reaction. So this is all in the subconscious, yeah, the chitta. It can go up to here as well, but let's keep it like this, the way it is here. So ahankar would say, I smell a banana, let's say, and immediately like, oh, I don't like the smell of that. But it's like a very subconscious thing which I'm not realizing, or I can actually become conscious of the smell. I could be like moving away, maybe, or let's say another, like I'm in a bus and somebody wears a perfume that I don't like, and then I'm like, I smell it, but without thinking, I'm just pulling away. Yeah, Harchand, hello, Satnamji, welcome. So if I'm smelling the perfume and I don't like it, I just move away without even thinking, maybe. Or I can be, ooh, that perfume, I don't like it, right? So that would be a conscious ahankar aspect of I like or I dislike. And it may say, let's move away. And then manas goes like, remember the action, movement, yeah? And then I would move away from that person. So this can all happen on a subconscious level without even thinking. So the addict who is with a glass of whiskey, they have the whiskey on the table, they don't even think about it. They just take the glass and they drink without even being conscious. That can happen. You know, you can be a little bit stressed out and then you don't even realize. You go into your kitchen or you go into your drawer. If you have in your drawer, that's a bad idea to keep them in a drawer next to the computer. But you can go to the drawer, get some chocolate bar, and start chewing on it before you even realize that you are doing it, because everything happens on that subconscious level. Oh dear. Okay, so this is the mechanism of addictions as well. But then, is there no solution to this? Well, there is. But that's the fourth aspect which is missing here. There we go. I said I'm putting double arrows because there is a way to connect both, but I'm mostly doing this circle like this. Okay, this is the main circulation, yeah? The way it's going. And this will go like this as well. What is this? Well, the one missing, Buddhi. Again, don't worry about how I write it. You could write it with only one D. Generally I write it with one D. I don't know why I put two today, but it doesn't matter. It's not important. Buddhi, I'm going to do it with another color, which is going to be the color. I'm going to use a light blue. I'm going to use. All right. So who is Buddhi? Buddhi, actually, he has a number of functions, and to me, they feel quite separate enough that if I was to do this diagram, I would put two different bubbles. But because I'm doing this to try to understand the yogic teachings, I'm going to keep it the way the classical way is. But I'm gonna reflect upon the different qualities that are often associated to buddhi. One, the most important, is discernment. And discernment is going to allow us to make choices. So, decisions. Yeah? And decisions implies conscious decisions. Yeah, because everything that was here were a form of decisions. They were subconscious decisions. Yeah, grabbing the glass and drinking, that's a subconscious decision. So this, when I say make choices here, I'm saying like conscious choices. But the buddhi is often translated as the intellect. Now, I don't particularly like the translation of buddhi as intellect because it may be associated then to purely intellectual processes. And I believe discernment, making choices, particularly wise choices, actually wisdom, yeah? Discernment is linked to wisdom. I believe that that's a different aspect from our intellect. But because sometimes it's translated like this, I think it's basically a shortcoming of our language, in the Western language. So we call it what we have, the word that we have in English, we call it intellect. And it does contain part of the intellectual processing. But it's not only that, it's much more than that. However, let's say that when buddhi activates, that's the part of us which is going to think about it. It's going to be processing it. It's going to be analyzing it. That would be the intellectual part. And then from the analysis, it's going to say, well, okay, let's do this or let's do that. That's the making decision part. There are two different parts that I'm going to join together. By the way, this discernment is also often connected to an intuition. It's like an intuitive discernment, which is why I don't like to connect it with the term the intellect, because I think it's two different things that get mixed up. But let's say it like this. I see the glass with alcohol and I remember what it is. And maybe even I have an attachment to it or an addiction to it because I like it and I feel that I am the kind of person who likes alcohol. So that triggers the identity of the alcoholic, yeah? However, buddhi is there and the intellect says, yes, yeah, your body thinks that it needs it. Your body may even tell you, please grab the glass. But you know, and here it's actually being a little bit supported by memories, yeah? So there's going to be also a line like this. It's going to tell you, you know what happens if you drink. You know how bad you will feel afterwards. You know the effects that it's going to have. You know, if it's an alcoholic, maybe they will remember, you know, when you drink, then you start maybe abusing your family and lying to the people at work and whatever. No, you start remembering all the immoral things that you do, or the loss of control of your body, or you start getting into fights, whatever kind of negative experience that you associate as well. Yeah, because there is a liking, but there is a lot of negative impressions associated, and you may draw upon those to understand intellectually that this is not good for you. And then understanding that it's not good for you, even if your body likes it and you are addicted to it, then discerning and making the choice and say, actually, I'm not going to take it. And in instructing manas, rather than going and taking it, maybe to look for something else, or to go away. Yeah, go somewhere else and avoid it, and avoid the drink in this case. So I'm just describing now a healthy functioning of the four minds, helping us in this case to avoid an addiction. Yeah. Let me know if it's clear or you have any doubt. Now, the same four functioning minds can operate with anything, yeah? So let's say it's not something addictive that I want to stop. Let's say you see a mango, yeah? The mind detects a mango. I think this is an example that Shivananda gives, by the way. He says, you are walking in a garden and you see a mango tree. That's manas, yeah? That's manas. And Chitta remembers, oh, these are mangoes. And then you have the memory of opening the mango and the juicy juice coming out of it and how it's sweet to the taste. And then you are going into the memory and, ooh, I like mangoes. I am the kind of person who likes mangoes. I love mangoes, yeah? Okay, I don't like mangoes. I love mangoes. All right, so that loving then goes into Buddhi, and Buddhi says, well, are mangoes good for you? Actually, yes. You know, my body was asking for something sweet and cold. And you know, a part of you, the ego might say, oh, sweet and cold, I like ice creams. I want ice creams. But, you know, Buddhi may say, you know, mangoes are sweet and cold. How about you just grab a mango and, you know, why not? Go on, go on. This is like the little angel and little devil on the shoulder, right? So Buddha is telling you, come on, take the mango. And then you decide it is wise to have a mango and choose it, make the choice. And then Manas goes and takes, yeah? Goes and takes. I didn't write here, but this would be going and this would be taking, yeah? Maybe I should write it. Eliminate. This is the organs of action, yeah? Procreate or reproduce, I think it's often said, reproduce. The third one is movement. The fourth is grasping or grabbing, taking, grasp. And listening and speaking. Speak. So, Manas is instructed from Buddhi to go, move, and take the mango. And then open it, and then let's taste it, yeah? So and now, you're chewing on the beautiful mango. And the nice experience of eating the beautiful mango, that's a positive impression that you like, that's going to reinforce chitta, but also reinforce the memory that you overcame with Buddhi, with the power of Buddhi. You overcame maybe the other voice of you, which is like, let's go grab an ice cream. But no, I just need something cold and sweet. And then that reinforces Buddhi, and Buddhi becomes... So what we are saying is that this aspect of our mind is how awake you are. And if it's called like this is my suggestion. Eh? It's called Buddhi because sometimes it's not awake. And when this is not awake, when this is sleeping, this we could see this is a little... do I have a 0.4? Yeah. Buddhi is like our little Buddha here. Oh, I'm coming out of the page. Hold on. With the eyes closed. Yeah. And our job is to awaken, to wake up our discernment and to wake up our capacity to make choices. Because look, this is over the surface of the different levels of consciousness, which means that this is the Buddhi. This is where Buddhi operates. This is the consciousness. Is it conscious or not? Am I awake or am I asleep? Because if Buddhi is not awake, if it doesn't intercede, if it doesn't operate, then all my actions are going to be informed from ahankara, from my ego. And then my actions are going to be reactions, and then I'm going to create more karma, and this is where I live. This is where I operate. So it is our job to awaken this Buddhi. Yeah? If I am, just to bring a little bit more understanding to Buddhi, if I am a mathematician and I am trying to understand an equation that has, a formula that has not been solved, and I'm trying to solve it. And I'm looking at the formula, that's the manas memory, and trying to grasp from my memory all the impressions, all the memories I have on, I don't know, calculus, for example, or algebra, whatever the formula is about, to try to solve it, right? It doesn't matter whether I like it or I dislike it. Maybe I like the effort of trying to solve problems, right? And Ahankar is saying, yeah, I like to do that. Or not. Maybe you're in a school and they give you this work and you're like, oh my God, now I have to solve the equation, right? So do you dislike it? But the part of you which is going to solve it, that is the intellectual analysis, understanding that is going to happen on that equation. So that is the intellectual part of buddhi. But again, there is a difference between intellect and wisdom. There is a difference between knowing 1,000 different formulas and even understanding how to apply them, that's memory and part intellect and intellectual analysis. And discernment is to say, well, out of these 1,000 formulas, this is the one that you can take. So discernment is one step higher. I would say intellect is on a low level and discernment on one step higher. Also because one thing, that's very interesting. Because the intellect can be sabotaged. It can be convinced by the ahankar, by the ego, to play a role that is like karmic in a way. Let's say the alcoholic guy, who is seeing the glass of alcohol, remembering how it feels, and feeling that they need it, they like it, they want the glass of alcohol. That the addict may intellectually justify why they are drinking. They may say, well, look, I am a big businessman. I have a big, I'm a CEO, have a big operation that I have to, we are in a merger position with another company, whatever. I need to rest, I need to sleep because I'm very tired, and it will be easier to fall asleep if I grab a glass of alcohol. So he may intellectually justify why they are sedating themselves to go to sleep. Even if they know that it's not healthy for them, they will intellectually convince themselves that it's okay. Or is the intellectual thinking like, oh, I could stop anytime. So I can just have one more, and maybe tomorrow I will stop smoking, for example, or whatever. So when the intellect gets aligned with the ego, as I said, it can sabotage us. And when I say us, I mean our real self, our core self. We could say that here in the center of everything, there is our core self, who we truly are. And that intellect can be sabotaging us and then getting us into a certain action, like in this case, drinking a glass of alcohol, which is going to be going against us. Yeah? So intellect can be sabotaged and discernment can be asleep in that case. So intellect can be awake and discernment can be asleep. That's why I'm saying I would separate buddhi into two different factions. Like this. Yeah. I would splice it in two and to clarify the difference between these two. Hopefully the diagram is clear. I gave enough examples to differentiate the different ones. If you have any question, please write it in the chat now before we move on. Hopefully that becomes more clear. I'll take the opportunity to drink some water, giving you a few seconds to think, did I understand this? If you're watching this video recorded already, maybe you can pause it and reflect upon it for a moment. Let me just now then mention why sometimes these four are actually three, called three, only three. So this is the way they operate. But chitta, the word chitta, I mentioned, it comes from chit being consciousness. Now, all of it is happening in consciousness. Some are happening in the subconscious, some more semi-conscious, and some more conscious, yeah? We can see the drawing merging like this, yeah? But they are all happening in consciousness in some way, in one level or another. Therefore, excuse me, we could say that all this happens within Chitta. Yeah, does it make sense? So, in some texts from Vedanta, and I was thinking particularly I was thinking now of the level 1 manual for Kundalini Yoga. It's called Chitta is the universal mind, and it contains 3 aspects: manas, buddhi, and ahankara. And this would be the understanding if you consider, well, Chitta is consciousness, so all this is going to happen within the realm of consciousness. But again, Chitta is also understood particularly with a singular role of memory, and you can differentiate that from the others in this particular way. Now, but if you think of it like all this as a realm of one universal consciousness, then it makes sense in the terms that everything is consciousness. Now, it's interesting that Chitta would be called universal consciousness, because what he's saying is that if you can work on the 4 aspects of the mind, on these aspects of the mind, and you can reach the highest form, the highest manifestation of all of them, we will talk about this in a moment, and we could get the best out of each one, we could reach the objective of yoga, which is merging of our individual consciousness with the universal consciousness. Now, if we are saying that this is all consciousness, it's a Chitta, and so through this process and awakening the buddhi and ahankara purified, all this, then our consciousness can merge with the universal consciousness. And that's our Chitta would be in contact with the universal consciousness. So it is like Chitta would be in the highest form, and Chitta could take us to the highest place. So that's a concept that we can explore deeper in some other time, but I think this video would be enough to stop here. I'm not going to stop here. We have a few more things to go, but I'm going to stop the discussion of whether universal consciousness goes in one way or another. I think there is a lot to talk about this. I've been reading some video. Well, I think I was watching some videos from Sadhguru on YouTube that were also talking about this concept of Chitta as a universal consciousness. And there's some text as well from, I think it was from Yogi Bhajan, on regarding this. So maybe we can explore that, but I think we can explore that more in a less formal video, like in a satsang, more relaxed, reading some texts and trying to understand them together. Here I'm trying to, like going very, very clear, term by term, exposing every aspect to make it more informative. And then we could do another satsang, maybe Thursday, maybe some other day, in a more loose way, trying to read through the different texts and make sense out of them, utilizing this diagram. So I think it's better if I don't put it right here, if I don't go and start expanding on the universal mind as Chitta. But hopefully the idea is clear. No? These are 4 functions. Now when we consider Chitta as consciousness, you could say that all this happens in the consciousness, therefore that's joining these other 3. So, okay. Now, I mentioned a number of things that could help us or hinder us, and it would be nice to now identify them and to reflect upon them and just put them together and to see. I would call that the karma and the dharma of every one of these aspects. Sohail is asking, where would be the witness during meditation? All right. Good. That's a profound question. Let's see. So the witness is the self, yeah? Our consciousness. All this is mind. This is not the self, yeah? We could say in a way that the self could be here on top. I would write it in the middle, but I don't want it to think that it's here in the head. We could see it like, imagine this is like the 4 corners of a pyramid. Yeah, and there is a center, yeah, this is a pyramid seen from above, yeah? You can see it like this. Do you see the pyramid? And this is looked from above. So this point would correspond to this point. And you could see, maybe let's take this. This is, imagine that this is the tip of the pyramid, and then we do like this. Boop, yeah? We lift it. So out of, these are like, oh, interesting. Swami Jay uses a metaphor. Now, I was thinking about this, and now I remember a metaphor. They call this, these are the spokes of a wheel. And the center of the wheel is the self. That's why I was saying, we could write it here, yeah? But if you remember when I was talking about the self, there was this drawing. I think it was with, hopefully this is not from a teacher training. Maybe I did this in a teacher training. I'm not sure. Maybe this is from a teacher training, and I may need to explore this in detail. I forget what I did in the YouTube and when I do in trainings. So I'm not sure about whether I did this with you or not. Well, just in case I didn't. The self, the real, excuse me, one, oh, excuse me. One that I really did is this one, yeah? The video on the self. And the real self is right here. The false, when I say the ego, the false self is in the head. Well, now we can associate that term with ahankar, yeah? But look, the real self, the observer, the witness, yeah? So hell, this is the witness. The witness is looking up and out through the indriyas. And the indriyas come into the mind. The mind is like this triangle. And now the triangle, we could understand it like manas, ahankar, and buddhi. And then in the reflection, then the self is absorbed. It was in YouTube? Ah, excellent. Oh, I'm glad that it's in YouTube. Okay, then I don't need to remind you. But let's just review it very quickly. So consciousness gets attracted by the senses, and then our consciousness goes away, goes out. But this self, you could see it here like this point that goes higher, yeah? Even though in reality, in reality it's down into the heart, yeah? But you could see it like this, like the center of the wheel, so it is our self, it is the real self, our Satnam, which is influencing us in the movement of information through these different bubbles. So it is our real self which can tell, come on, make the right choice. Yeah? Or yeah, you like it, but is it good for you? Triggering the discernment, yeah? Or do you remember the last time that it happened, and triggering the memory? So it is kind of the witness which is paying attention to one or another, making sure that we are making the flow as healthy as possible, as dharmic as possible, let's say. But if the self is asleep, if our witness is asleep, then this becomes like this. This is closed, maybe like this, yeah? The intellect as a sabotage, and we're just doing this circle like this. This is what we call a vicious circle, yeah? Now, we don't want that. We want buddhi to be awake, and we want the real self to wake up buddhi. So what we do is we train ourselves to do that by going inward in meditation. This is what, Sohail, what you are asking. No, where would be the witness during meditation? Well, in meditation, you will perceive when Patanjali talks about what meditation is, or the path towards meditation, he says, yamas niyamas, asana pranayama, dharana dhyana samadhi. These are like the 8 steps. Now, pratyahara, pranayama pratyahara, did I skip it? I don't know when I was saying it, if I skipped it or not. Pratyahara would be bringing the senses inwards to sense the self. So that's bringing the awareness of the self, reflecting inward. So you turn the mirror, you see this little prism that has turned, and now it's not focused outside, but is mirroring. This is a mirror to bring the awareness towards yourself. This is equivalent to being on top of the water and looking back at yourself in the reflection of the surface of the water becoming like a mirror. Oh, wait. Did I just say what I think I said? Am I now answering to what, where was the comment? GIY, I don't know if you're still around. You were asking, Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Does it is the same context in this example I'm giving. Well, this is where Chitta Vritti Nirodha happens. Because, look, it said Chitta Vritti is not, Patanjali doesn't say Manna Vritti Nirodha. He doesn't say Buddhi Vritti Nirodha or Ahankara Vritti Nirodha. He says Chitta Vritti. Chitta Vritti means the waves, the fluctuations in Chitta. But now, because we talked about how Chitta sometimes, if we just consider is consciousness and therefore incorporates all of this, then when Patanjali is talking about Chitta Vritti, he talks about all of this, the fluctuations in all of this, meaning everything that is happening in the consciousness, vrittis, movements in the consciousness. So when we are capable of finding this stillness in the fluctuations of the Nirodha is a stillness, yeah, cessation of the fluctuations, that's when all these waves are calming down. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, Satnam. J.O. Good to see you subscribing. Thank you. So when we are perceiving this fluctuation calming down, then that's when the description says, now we come back into the self. Yeah, Patanjali says, now we are seeing the real self. That's when the mirror is, now you can mirror yourself. Now you can see yourself. And that's how, Satnam, are you going away, Harchan? Good to see you. Beijinhos. So when you are seeing your reflection, yeah? So this is like being on top of the reflection, of the waves coming down, the surface of the water becomes flat, Chitta Vritti Nirodha, and then you can see yourself reflected in that. And that's when the witness is witnessing him or herself. So your question, Sohel, where would the witness be during meditation? The witness is contemplating his own existence. And his own essence, the essence of self, is consciousness. So in meditation, when we do pratyahara, bringing the senses inwards, I mentioned how also in the other video on Purusha and Prakriti, this is like when we are going upwards in this diagram, it's actually going inwards in our experience, yeah, from the senses inward. So we're going up from all this. Chitta Vritti Nirodha, they are becoming softer, and we are climbing up and finding within the experience of Purusha, the spirit. We are finding the spirit. So we are witnessing the spirit. And the nature of a spirit, the essence of a spirit, is consciousness. So pratyahara, away from the senses. Dharana, concentrate, one center. Which center? The center, the one in the middle, the medium, the meditation, medium. The medium point is consciousness. And then where is the witness during meditation? Going back into consciousness. And then you and the object of your meditation, yeah? That when they talk about samadhi, like the witness and the object of what is being witnessed, they merge. This is when you are becoming aware or conscious of you being consciousness. So conscious of your consciousness. And that's consciously conscious or super conscious. So that's the state of merging with your own consciousness and realizing that's my nature. That's who I am. My nature is consciousness. And then you can say, I am consciously conscious that I am consciousness, right? And that is consciously conscious. This is the highest state. That's when you can enter Turiya. And through that, there is a gateway, a passage, in which if the veil lifts, if the grace comes, if the veil is lifted, the veil of ignorance, then you find the union with God, with the divine, and then you find that you actually never left. You just felt that you were separate because of all this game of Maya, which was making me have negative and positive impressions and likes and dislikes and feeling separate. But now you are merging. So you see why I had to bring all these diagrams? And this is why we had to build up slowly through every one of these diagrams to find the right understanding, to explain every little. And I mentioned today at the beginning, didn't I? I said today is going to be kind of like the climax. It's not the end of the movie. There's quite a few more factors, but today is kind of the climax. We will do another video where we kind of put everything a little bit together into one diagram, kind of merging everything if we can. It's going to be like a very, I don't know, maybe a little bit dangerous to try to propose to put everything in one diagram, but I'm going to try to do that. But today was the one that all the pieces are kind of starting to fall into place. Hopefully I wasn't. It wasn't too distracting, so many factors, and it was more clear. There's a few more videos to do still, but before we finish today, I want to read something to you. And I've been having conversations with ChatGPT this last year, and I've been utilizing it to help me prepare these courses. So I have a lot of conversations about the nature of the self and the teachings, and asking, because ChatGPT has this incredible knowledge of all texts, and I can ask about the root of a Sanskrit word or something. So today we were having a conversation on what I was going to talk today, and I asked, please give me a summary of the karmic and the dharmic expression of each of the 4 functions of the mind in the Antahkarana. This was my question, referring to this, because I wanted to see, how does manas help? How does manas hinder us? And chitta, and ahankara, and buddhi. And how can we live in the most harmonious and balanced way that is going to take us towards the final objective of Satchitananda? So what is the karmic and the dharmic aspect of every one of them? To know what we have to work on. What do we have to work on? You want to hear the answer from ChatGPT? Listen, it's very incredible, huh? And I ask it to be very precise, do a table with a little summary. I said, don't evolve it. I said a little summary, like a table of the karmic and dharmic qualities of each of the 4 functions of the mind. That's what I asked, and he says, okay. So these are the dharmic and karmic expressions of each of the 4 functions in the Antahkarana. Manas, remember, manas. In the karmic, it's reactive, it's impulsive, easily distracted, driven by immediate sensory inputs. So I'm going to explain, So reactive and impulsive, that it's filtering the experience based on our past experiences. It's going to filter what comes in and comes out, and it's going to be easily distracted. Remember, this is what is distracting us. Distraction is the opposite of concentration. Concentration is one of the steps to samadhi. So this is key. This is why we do mantras and not bodhitras or chittatras, because we have to work on that distraction, So in the karmic, reactive, impulsive, easily distracted, driven by immediate sensory inputs. In the dharmic, it is mindful, focused, balanced, and processes sensory information consciously. Interesting, This is the Krishna holding the reins of the horses, in the battlefield with Arjuna behind. Second aspect, chitta. Memory storehouse. Is karmic when it holds unprocessed past experiences influencing present unconsciously and repetitive patterns. So it holds the experiences from the past, but are going to be influencing karmically the experience of the present by creating repetitive patterns. So it is like the addiction, and it holds a pattern. And the dharmic of this memory storehouse is aware of the past impressions, but it is not bound by them, and uses memories for learning and growth. So it's accessible to learn from what happened without being attached to what happened. In other words, I have memories, but I'm not traumatized by them. I have experiences, but I have learned from them, and I can move on. So, very interesting. Let's go to the third, ahankara. And he says, ahankara, ego and sense of self, in the karmic manifestation, It identifies with personal desires, preferences, likes and dislikes, and reinforces the sense of separation. He's referring to Maya and feeling that we are separate from the world. Isn't it incredible? And he says, in the dharmic expression, it goes beyond the personal preferences and cultivates a sense of universal I amness and connectedness. Isn't it incredible? How can ChatGPT have an incredible grasp of these teachings? It's incredible. Okay, let me finish. Buddhi, the intellect and decision making. He says, in the karmic version, it is misguided, clouded, and makes decision based on ego or misinformation. It can be asleep or not fully engaged. I'm just reading. I'm just reading the. I'm just reading the ChatGPT. I'm just to show you that I'm not making this up. This is my question. Yeah. Sorry, you cannot see very well here. No, this doesn't help. But this is my question, and I'm just reading the answer. Yeah? Okay. I'm reading it because it's difficult from the camera. But so Buddhi can be misguided, misaligned, and be operating under the influence of ahankara, like our likes and our dislikes. And it says it can make decisions based on ego or misinformation. It can be asleep or not fully engaged. And the dharmic is when Buddhi is awakened, aligned with higher truth, clear, discerning, and guided by wisdom. OMG. Oh my God. To me, I sometimes when I'm talking to ChatGPT, I have these moments of seeing what's coming. We will do a video on artificial intelligence, but I think I wanted to show you this little text. And this happened this morning, just before I connected. I was like, I'm going to talk about this. Let me ask ChatGPT. And look what he got. And look, most of this, what I was thinking, I didn't really adapt this now so that you could, understand the text from ChatGPT. No, this is what I had prepared to talk about today. But then you read ChatGPT and it's like, that's incredible. And that's incredible in a nice way, in the way that, we could actually all benefit from having somebody like ChatGPT, something that can inform us in such a way that could help us understand these teachings, which can be very obscure. I don't know if it's clear or not now, but to me, to reach this point where I understand this in this way, it's taken me so many years, and there's probably some confusion, and I take full responsibility. Whatever I'm misunderstanding here, Wahuru, that's because of my lack of clarity on myself, and I'm still not totally aligned with the truth. But the way I understand it, to me, at least now, it makes much more sense than it used to do like 15 years ago, which could be, I was totally confused about these 4 terms. So, incredible ChatGPT, but let's now put aside ChatGPT and let's just enjoy the beauty of these teachings that come from so many years ago, from the yogis, and hopefully you found some clarity with this. It may have helped you. It's been almost 2 hours. I appreciate everyone being here, especially those of you who are in the chat right now, and they commented and they helped to interact for this conversation. And everybody who is following the videos, especially if you watch the whole course, Wahuru, it takes a big commitment to do this, and I appreciate. And we still have a few more videos to go on this course. Not much more is left, but we will do a few more things and exciting stuff as well. But for now, I think it's a good place to stop. If you want to come back on Thursday, we will do a satsang. I'm not sure what we will do yet, but and now I'm putting I will try to every month to schedule when am I streaming for the whole month, and then I will be, so that's in my, if you go to the YouTube channel and you go to the section where I'm sending messages, I don't remember, community tab, you will find this kind of, thank you DIY. You say Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga say pratyahara is necessary step for samadhi. Is this intended all the time of part of an always blended experience? Is this intended all the time? Or part of an always, I see. I would say that pratyahara is necessary on the path to get to that experience of samadhi. And then at some point, you can open your eyes, be in the world, interact with the world, and not lose that experience of samadhi, though that would require stabilizing and integrating the experience. So I would say it's on the path, and then eventually you can just operate through the senses without being lost into them and distracted by them. Thank you, Sahel. Thank you, GIY. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and everyone who made comments, and everyone who is here right now. I don't think I can see who is right now here. No, I don't see. I never see who is online. I just see when somebody writes. So thank you, everyone. And until next time, Sadnam.